What up, yo? Gonna throw a quick one out today. Back in late July, we did a little thing about SoCar's IPO, which has come and gone as best as one could expect these days. In that video, we mentioned that there were 2 more big IPOs to watch for, and today I want to quickly go over what the deal is with those. You're watching Secular, and today we're talking about what to expect from big IPOs in the final quarter of 2022. Now, before we continue, we'd just like to remind you that this channel is meant for general education purposes only and isn't meant to replace the legal or financial advice from a paid professional. When it comes to investments, everything should be taken with a fair bit of skepticism regardless of the source, and that includes us, so for that reason, nothing we say here should be taken as a basis for investment, and you'll have to do your own work and thinking before deciding whether taking up a position on any stock mentioned here is in your best interest. Want to know how? Well, if you scroll down a tiny bit, hit the like and subscribe buttons, we'll do our best to help you figure out how to figure out this game for yourself. And with that being said, let's get to it. Alright, so in that first IPO video, we talked about SoCar, and SoCar did the whole thing, listed on August 22nd, and was met with, well, whispers at most. The company, which at the time it started its IPO process, saw itself as a company worth 2 to 3 trillion won, after a few days of trading is now worth down to about 1 trillion won, with shares selling at below their IPO price. That really is a massive yikes, but I mean, you know what they say about the first ones through the door, right? Still, this begs the question, what are the current companies mulling late 2020 IPOs thinking? Well, let's shift. So when I mentioned in the other video that there were a few more IPOs lined up for this year, the main companies I was talking about were Hyundai Oil Bank, the gas station operator, K Bank and Kurly Inc., who is the parent company of online grocery alternative, Market Kurly. All of these companies have significant market share in their sector, and in light of the still frigid IPO market, still have a lot to consider. Luckily for us, Hyundai Oil Bank scrapped their plans at the end of last month, so that really helps us because we don't have to talk about it here. I will say though that it was their 3rd time balking on the IPO process in the past 10 years, so we can expect to see them take another crack at it sometime in the near future, but it really doesn't seem like they have it. It's just not really a priority to them right now to get on the market, especially given the market circumstances right now. The other 2, however, still haven't declared a rollback of plans, so let's talk about them now. And I'm going to start with K Bank. Alright, so K Bank's valuation is a little bigger than SoCar's initial 2 to 3 million, as the online loan broker currently has a 4 trillion won market forecast. Honestly, it seems big, especially with SoCar being down at 1 trillion won, but that's a far cry from last year when they were quote-unquote conservatively valued at 8 trillion won by Morgan Stanley. As of right now, it seems as if the company is still looking to go forward with their plans in spite of the current headwinds that they face in the IPO market due to a stated acceptance of the unpredictability of IPO environments generally. Now, reports on this, however, are mostly from the beginning of August, which is actually a lot earlier than the tough SoCar IPO that happened a couple weeks ago, which might have changed the landscape, and it was definitely much earlier than the past few weeks when KBank, the listed company that K Bank selected as their comparison group, took a beating on reports of new regulations on simple remittance services available through online financial firms. When it was announced earlier in the year that K Bank would IPO, the initial news proposed an EV between 7 to 8 trillion won, but if they were to apply the same metrics using KBank's current price to book as a reference, that EV would be about 4.3 trillion, which is about half, and at that price, it could very well be too low for them compared to their desired valuation. This is like after K Bank has turned to the black in the first half of the year on the back of mortgage and chonse loans, and is definitely a far cry from what they were expecting when they initially applied. Thus, even if they lower their price further and push to be listed, they might ultimately be doing themselves a disservice as their business continues to grow stronger, but the market conditions and demand for their or any stock continues its year-long pullback. Either way, the company submitted their application for a preliminary exam to the Korean Stock Exchange on June 30th, which means that we should hear back about their eligibility soon. But based on the timeline, they'd likely be slated to list sometime at the end of September or the beginning of October if they do choose to go with their original IPO timeline. If they do decide to list and anyone is genuinely interested, I can do a breakdown of their business similar to what I did with SoCar, but for now, as with the next company, we'll just have to watch and see and just do a quick summary. Now, speaking of the next company, let's get to talking about Kurly Inc., which is the group behind the grocery unicorn, Market Kurly. Now, if you don't already know who this company is or what they do, it's pretty simple. Market Kurly sells groceries and more recently debuted Beauty Kurly, which sells cosmetics. They also sell stuff like TVs and toasters now, but the company made most of its headway into the online retailing scene with Market Kurly, where the main focus was ensuring the freshness of their grocery products through early morning deliveries. Naturally, in such a competitive space, their operation fits a very specific niche for fresh conscious customers who don't necessarily have the time or energy to go shopping in person regularly, or at least regularly enough to keep their fridge fresh all the time. Now, the company applied for a preliminary review around the end of March, early April this year, and recently got permission to go ahead with their IPO plans. Whether or not they'll do it is a little bit up in the air due to a number of factors. First is the thing we've talked about ad nauseum to this point. The IPO environment is bad. It's just bad. The market has been shrinking these past few weeks, and all of the energy from earnings seasons has already died down, and people are once again settling into reality. Now, what's different here, in my opinion, between K Bank and Hyundai Bank is that Kurly, unlike those other two, have a significant amount of pressure due to the nature of their business. It's really competitive, and they kind of need more money. I mean, they need more money more urgently. See, from my vantage point, it really seems as if, like SoCar, Kurly seems to have significant difficulties getting out of the red, which is an issue if they're not able to secure more funding from private investors. This is because with an estimated cumulative operating loss of about 500 billion won by the end of last year, and an estimated 900 billion won raised from the firm's creation to that time, they could theoretically burn through the remaining 400 billion pretty quickly if they're not able to slow the process by a significant degree. For reference, their operating losses last year were reported to be around 220 billion won, and that just means that if they have the same type of year for the next 2 years running and don't change their bottom line, then they could realistically run out of money. Now, in spite of this, CEO Kim Sura did a spot on CNBC a few weeks ago where she declared that they're really in no rush for the company to go public. Whether or not this is genuine is up to you to decide. That being said, an IPO could do a few things for the company. First, it allows more time to keep growing their top-line earnings while improving their business's efficiency and hopefully converting sales to profits. This is actually not that hard to imagine, as the company grew 65% last year. This chart, plotting Kurly's growth from Precon.com, shows exactly why Kurly is considered a unicorn and who would normally be getting a lot of positive press in the run-up to their IPO. Their ridiculous revenue growth, like SoCar, is the number one driver that would make any retail investor like us do a double take. However, like SoCar, their inability to translate those revenues into positive earnings should be something to consider. There have also been reports that I found in Korean about the company being kind of like fraudulent, like they were selling oysters that were actually dry frozen as being like not traditionally dried or something like that. But to be honest, it seemed like a lot of the same article just being reproduced on different sites that I've never heard of. So it just kind of seemed like, maybe the shorts are trying to do their thing. I have no idea, but yeah. One good thing to note, though, is that if they do go ahead with their plans, the company is expected to enforce a lockup of general shareholders to avoid any potential price drops. That basically just gives retail a little more comfort, since it's always good to know that existing shareholders are not just trying to sell off something that they don't want on an unsuspecting public. Now, if Kurly does drop their subscription price, they may be able to drum up some interest around their IPO, but SoCar did that, and even still the market was muted. All in all, it'll be interesting to see what K Bank and Kurly decide to do going forward. With little positivity in the market, I wouldn't blame either of them if they decide to postpone their market debut. But unlike K Bank, whose business actually turned a profit in the last year, Kurly might not be in a position to wait. I'll let you know what I find out when I find out. Alright, that's it for me. If you're not investing and would prefer I talk about something else, let me know, because I'm once again just grasping at straws. I don't know what you guys want to hear. Hope y'all are doing well. Take it easy. Peace.